Good morning everyone, Josh here with Rubi The Rubicon. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Over the weekend, my family and I went up to Hill End via the Bridle Track from Bathurst, and while I didn't take my GoPros with me to film the actual day, I do have my dash cam, which is a reasonable quality camera, in the truck that did film the duration of the trip. What we're going to do is a real-time slow video from one end of the bridle track to the other. I haven't seen one on YouTube yet, so I figure we'll give this a go. We'll see how people enjoy it. I did have my family in the car though, so the audio, we'll put some nice background music in. We might cut to the audio from the camera at some stage, we might not. We'll see how the audio turns out. If you like this content, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video as well. It really does help us. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers at the moment. That would be really cool if you could help us get there. That would be awesome. Alright, enough talking from me. Please enjoy this slow video. We'll start this video at the bottom of the dirt section at the entrance to the bridle track. I've cut this so that I'm just about to get back into the vehicle after airing down. Now, do you need to air down for the bridle track? This is an interesting question. You probably don't. However, if you do choose to air down like I did here, I went from, give or take, 38 psi to 25 pound. 25 pound in the Jeep is a really nice number if you're doing dirt roads, corrugations, dealing with potholes, loose rock, loose gravel. It'll give you a little bit more grip. It will significantly increase the ride of the vehicle over the bumpy sections. It will make it a heck of a lot more comfortable. It will reduce wear and tear on your suspension. It will reduce wear and tear on the track itself. And it will also reduce wear and tear on you and your family. Now, the bridle track at the moment is really dry. It's really, really dry. There's a lot of loose dirt. There's a lot of loose gravel. We took it pretty easy. When all was said and told, we spent about an hour and a half going from one end to the other. And mostly, everybody was fairly well behaved. We only came across one person who was flying in the other direction, and that was in this first section here. But apart from that, we had a pretty good run. You can see there, we're not going that fast. We're only doing about 30 k's an hour. The nice thing about this dash cam is that it does have an inbuilt GPS speedo in it. And we just took our time. Like, there's no point rushing these things. Take your time, enjoy the scenery. So to answer the question of do you need to air down? Probably not. Is it going to make it a more comfortable, more enjoyable experience? Yes. Is it that much effort to just do it and then put some air in the tyres at the other end? I don't think so. As I said earlier, it's lighter on the track, it's lighter on the vehicle, it reduces wear and tear on everything involved. So, I mean, if you're not going to be travelling more than 40, 50 k's an hour, which in this case we weren't, just do it. You're not going to cause any issues for your tyres if you're not going too fast. And the benefit far outweighs the 10 minutes worth of effort it takes to do it, to air down at one end and air up at the other end. If you're interested in the tyre deflators that I use, you can go have a look in my channel. I'm using a set of Max Track tyre deflators. You can pick them up from Repco. They're quite cheap. They work reasonably well. They're a little bit fiddly to get set correctly, but once you've got them set at your pressure, screw them on, pop the valves, and by the time you screw the fourth one on, the first tyre will almost be finished deflated. So I think they're a good thing. Will I upgrade to something better in the future? Probably. So for those who aren't aware of what the bridle track is or where it is, the bridle track is an old track that follows the Macquarie River and eventually the Turon River up to Hill End. It runs from, I think it's about 30 k's north of Bathurst up to Hill End. and it follows the mountain. Now it is quite narrow in places. We're in sort of the wider section at the southern end here, and it's quite a nice drive. I wouldn't recommend doing it in anything that you're not comfortable driving with off-road, and I certainly wouldn't recommend doing it in a two-wheel drive if it's wet. There are some steep sections up towards Hill End, and you are definitely going to struggle if you're in a two-wheel drive. But on a day like today, you could definitely do the whole track in two-wheel drive, no problem. So I'm just going to roll some music up. I'll roll it down as time goes on, and yeah, enjoy this slow video, real time, of the Bridle Track from the southern end of the Bridle Track up to Hill End. So you can see here, we've just let this person past us, and you can see I'm not following too close. If you follow too close, what you end up doing is making the person in front of you potentially a little bit nervous. Nobody really likes having people tailgate you, especially not on a dirt road like this. You're also driving into the dust, so you're clogging up your air filter, you're taking away from the experience. And I mean, really, on a road like this, what's the rush? You're going to get to your destination eventually, so just enjoy the drive. So we are coming up to what I would consider the official start of the Bridle Track. Now, they have erected a new sign here. I don't know who's responsible for the sign. The sign fairly clearly spells out the conditions on the track. Whether you weigh into the should you have caravans and trailers or should you not have caravans and trailers debate, that's not really something I'm going to get into, except I will say that I have taken a caravan up to the first campground, and I would say that you could take a camper trailer into one of the first couple of campgrounds. The road's wide enough that if you need to pass somebody with a trailer on the back, you can, but I'm not sure I'd go much further than the third campground. Anyway, I'll leave you guys to enjoy the music and this video of the track. So we're just on the approach to, I think it's Broomban Nature Reserve, the little first campsite at the southern end of the Bridle Track. This is the campsite that I took a caravan to, and it's quite easy to get a van in and out of this track. You do need to be careful. So my wife and I, when we came down here, we were on our own, so we just drove down to have a little look around to show the kids, just to see how high the water is, We haven't had the Gladiator down here. I had a different vehicle when we came down here with the caravan, a two-wheel drive in fact, and we had no issues getting in or out. Now, what was really nice is this guy here saw me come in at the top and he decided to give way. So usually the traffic going uphill would have right of way, but in this instance he actually pulled over and let us down in. I couldn't see him from up top. The Gladiator's quite tall. It's entirely possible he was hiding behind the bonnet. So as you can see, not a lot of water in the Macquarie, and the same was true of the Turon as well. There was not a lot of water in either of the rivers. Sunday morning, so most campers that we saw were in the process of packing up to head out. This is just a nice flat little camping area. Pretty much any kind of vehicle would be able to get in here in the dry. If you just wanted to come up in a Commodore or even a little hatchback, you could get in here and camp and enjoy the camping. So we had a little bit of a look around. As I said, we have been here once before. That fire pit on the right was actually just where we camped when we came to stay. And then we had a little discussion about the best way to move out of here. Now, the track ahead of us does go down quite a ways further, and you can jump up onto the road from there, but we didn't know what the condition of that section of the track was like. So ultimately, we decided to go up this little goat track on the right-hand side here. Now, this is quite rutted out. The camera doesn't really do it justice. I actually disconnected the sway bar. I was still in two-wheel drive at this point, but I didn't want to lift a wheel going up this, so I just hit the sway bar disconnect. Nice thing about the Jeep is you can disconnect the sway bar from inside. And in two-wheel drive, we just really slowly just crawled up it. Like it just went straight up. You know, didn't scrape, didn't have any issues at all. Just all the way up to the top, nice and slow. Now, some of the campsites along the river do have toilets, so if that's a concern for you or your family, you'd have a look on, I've been using WikiCamps just to see which campsites do and don't have toilets. It's unlikely that we would go camping at a location with the family without toilets, but if it's just the wife and myself, then, you know, we're not too fussed about that kind of thing. So here we're just doing the lap around the top. So there is this big grassed area up the top of this particular camping spot with some tables that you can sit at. You could set up here and camp up top, not a problem, and have a nice view of the valley, or you could go down by the water. You may have noticed that with the water level quite low, somebody had actually driven out onto one of the sandbanks on the edge of the river, and they had set up camp there, which was right beside the water side. I mean, it's probably quite nice, but geez, you wouldn't want to be there when the river comes up, because it will come up pretty quick. So just a few little erosion humps here on the track on the way in, and that was a common theme across the whole Bridle Track. There are lots of little erosion humps, and they do have a habit of catching you unawares, given that everything is so dry, and that this particular time of the day, some of them were a little difficult to see. This also put a bit more distance between us and the person in front of us, so it allowed us to sort of back off a little bit. So back onto the track, the camping site is on the left-hand side. And there is a little goat track that runs along down by the river. I mean, you could spend an entire day travelling the Bridle Track and pulling into every campsite and doing every little goat track. There are quite a few of them. So we're coming up to a little narrow section up here with a small bridge. What is amusing is that these roadwork ahead signs, the speed limit on them is 60. Geez, I wouldn't want to be doing 60 through here. That would be pretty hairy if somebody came the other way. There is enough room here if you're really careful for two vehicles to pass, but yeah, it'd be tight. So just on the left here is where that goat track comes up. I haven't driven that one yet. Maybe next time we come through, I'll give it a go. There's a nice little spot on the left here that goes down to the water. It's not an official camping spot, but on the Bridle Track, there are all of these little spots off to the side of the road that are really, really cool. The next stop we make isn't for a little while yet, so we'll roll the music back in and enjoy. this point, we're just about to go through the final little dip before you approach Monaghan's Bluff. Now, for those who don't know, Monaghan's Bluff is the section of the Bridle Track which is just off to the left here. You can kind of see the original track coming up on this corner here. This is the section that got washed out. Now, this is where the landslide was. This was what closed the Bridle Track. And this is the bypass. And I've got to say, this is pretty steep. If you were in two-wheel drive and it was raining, I don't think you'd get up this. It is quite wide. They have put a guardrail in. I mean, I get it. Like, you have to put guardrails in and stuff for new constructions, but it does kind of take away from the experience a little bit. There are some really, really nice views from up here, and my wife took a few photos from up top. There's lots of photos from all over the place. When we get to the top and pull up, I'll cut to some of the shots of the Jeep that my wife took when we got up there. Again, this is really rocky. It's really loose, so you do have to be careful, and we're only taking it really easy. Some of these corners are quite sharp, and I mean, the camera does not do it justice as to just how steep this is. This is quite a hike up and quite a steep descent down on the other side. There's no issues with room to pass here. There's you know, you could almost put 3 cars wide, and a few people have mentioned this in other videos. It's fairly straightforward. I mean, the Bridle Track isn't really an off-road track. It's definitely more of a dirt road. It may have been an off-road track at one stage, but it's obviously been improved over time, and it's gotten better and better and better. So we're not too far from the top now. And as I said, right at the top there are some really, really nice views looking down over the Macquarie and the Turon. Again, that guardrail, I mean, it just does take away from the experience. We were looking out to the left here, that's why we slowed down a bit. I mean, I'm constantly looking at what's coming down the hill, so if I look like I'm driving on the wrong side of the road, I probably am, but that'll be because there's nobody coming. As you drive up this, it just seems to go up and up and up and up and up, and it's like, where does it stop? Eventually you do get to the top, and as I said, there's a nice spot up the top. The road is wide enough that if you want to pull up and get a few photos of your vehicle looking down, there's more than enough room to do that. You can see we're only just sort of pottering up this, 15, 20 k's an hour. The GPS jumps around a bit, but certainly we're not jumping from 20 to 24 k's an hour instantly, so. Still climbing up. It opens up here. This is really nice. I like that they haven't put a guardrail in here. We pulled up just here so my wife could take a couple of photos. We did pull up a little bit further along as well. But again, the Gladiator just did it. I mean, this is not a problem for the Gladiator. This road was quite nice. So yeah, this is where we pulled up to get some photos. I'm just sort of repositioning the Jeep so that I'm moving a bit further over. So we pulled up here, and then my wife got these photos. After sitting up here for a few minutes, we got back on the road, continued over the top of Monaghan's Bluff, and I had seen that there was a beach camp spot on the map. So that sounded interesting, so we'll check in again when we get down to there. So at this point, we turned into the campsite that had beach in the name. I can't remember the exact name of the campsite, but we thought, hey, you know what? It says beach. Let's check it out. We've been in the car for a while now. Let's get out and stretch our legs. So we drove in and we had a bit of a look at it. And this one's definitely a four-wheel drive only gig. I wouldn't be bringing a two-wheel drive in. You might get the two-wheel drive down to about here. But once you go over that next hump, it gets quite sandy and it gets quite soft. And although I say I've had the vehicle in two-wheel drive, what I've actually had the vehicle in is 4-high auto. So the Jeep has a 4-high auto where it will kick in four-wheel drive if it starts to feel like it needs it. And it definitely needed it here. Once you come over this into this soft stuff, it is really, really soft. I'm trying to stay in other people's wheel tracks, but this is where I'm really, really glad I let the tyre pressures down, because this is really soft. You could very, very easily get bogged down here. And if you get bogged down here and you don't know what you're doing, you could very easily get stuck down here. And that would be a really bad day. So we had a little bit of a drive around here. We pulled up sort of on the track just to have a quick look at whether or not we wanted to stick around here, and then I moved the Jeep into the shade. We chilled out for a bit, took some photos down by the river with the family, and then we got back on our way. So here you can see I pulled up and we jumped out and had a quick look around, and then I said I'll go move the car. You can kind of just see down in the right hand corner my family's down by the water. So we jumped out, we got the dogs out, we went for a little walk. The dogs did their thing, as they do in the bush. Make sure you pick it all up after they're done. And then we drove out. And the sand was soft. Like, I had a fair bit of throttle in to be moving through the sand, and the wheels were spinning and the traction control was doing its thing, and yeah, it was quite soft. Definitely would not recommend a two-wheel drive for this camp spot. That said, we just drove out, and the next stop was a pit stop, because you know how these things go. So the next time we turn off the Bridle Track, we're turning down to one of the campsites that had facilities. So this campsite doesn't have facilities. The next one that we went to does. So again, fairly easy climb out for the Jeep. Up to the top. and back onto the track. Now, what's interesting is we have a UHF in the truck, and I've always adopted the philosophy of if you're on the road and you're not towing, you're sitting on channel 40. Now, I don't know what the off-road etiquette is here. We've pulled up behind somebody, they're stopped in the middle of the track for seemingly no reason, and then they just kept moving. Now, I did try and call him up on the radio, but either he was on a different channel or he wasn't listening. We did come across another group of people coming the other direction, which were on channel 18, which is the caravanning channel, but it's not immediately obvious what channel we should be sitting on. So I'd be interested to hear from you guys in the comments. What channel would you sit on when you're traveling the bridle track, or a track like this, or just a four-wheel drive track in general? What would you be sitting on the radio? I'd be keen to hear. And as they say, when you gotta go, you gotta go. So the next stop we made was just up here into Mary Flynn Campground. The turn here is quite sharp. I probably messed this up. I probably should have gone a little bit further forward before swinging across, but the Gladiator just didn't have the turning circle to make it around. So, little 3-point turn. The track down into this campground is a little bit interesting. Again, this one's quite steep. It's not stupid steep. Like, you could probably get up this in 2-wheel drive without a problem, and get down it in 2-wheel drive without a problem. There are quite a few erosion bumps on this one, and once you get down the bottom, there's actually a cool bunch of little 4-wheel drive sort of tracks, that'll test your articulation and test your ability to pick lines and stuff. We didn't do any of that, but once we got down to the facilities, we did notice there was a little Ranger cruising around down the bottom. It was kind of funny. The bloke was driving around the various different tracks down the bottom, and he had his wife in the passenger seat, and he was pointing, and the wife was giving him the thumbs up and stuff, and you could see that he was having an absolute blast testing out his Ranger down the bottom here. So that one was really cool. So yeah, about every second campsite has facilities on it, which is really good. They've obviously put a fair bit of thought into making sure that the campgrounds on the Bridle Track are accessible and they are family friendly. This is a cool little one down the bottom, and yeah, we pulled up down here so that could take a pit stop. Again, have the family with us, so less of an issue if it's just my wife and I, but because we had the family with us, we pulled up at the loos. So the family jumped out and we had a quick pit stop, and then we got back on our way.
Just as we get to the top of the hill at the Bridle Track, I'm coming into Hill End. This video has been a little bit of a different one for us, so hopefully this has been enjoyable. And for those of you who don't get to drive the Bridle Track, you can get a feel for what it's like. Maybe decide that you want to go up there and check it out. There are lots of campsites up there, and my family and I do want to check them out, but our primary camping vehicle at the moment is a trailer. It's a camper trailer, so we're going to have to get some different gear, because as you can see, there are sections of the Bridle Track where, whether it's legal or not, you probably don't necessarily want to be taking a trailer. There's plenty to do and see in Hill End, and I do highly recommend going and visiting. Hill End is a dog-friendly town. It is managed by National Parks and Wildlife Service in New South Wales, but they do allow dogs, and they do allow dogs at the campsites. There's plenty of four-wheel driving available in the area once you get into Hill End, so yeah, do strongly recommend checking it out. If you've enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, and share the video amongst your friends. As I said, we are trying to reach 100 subscribers, so if you could help us out with that, that would be fantastic. This has been Josh and the family with Rubi the Rubicon. Cheers.